So going the last 2 weeks or so in the NBA, we've seen a lot of controversy, mostly around things not called in game ending or near game ending sequences that have had a pretty direct result on the outcome of the game. A couple of them have been contradicted by the last 2 minute game report. Um, and yeah, reffing something I kind of always mutter about as we do our basketball talk. So with this accumulation of this, I thought we'd go through some of the highlights and try and work out how we feel about each one of them and see if there's any broader takeaways we can make. So we've got 5 or 6 clips we're going to go through. If you're listening to this on the podcast, we are going to have the video playing and going to try and do some play-by-play, slowly analyzing it. So that's going to be on YouTube. I recommend checking it out there on our channel, Sports Next Door. We will try and talk it through and describe what is on the screen, though, if that's unavailable to you or you're a walker while you listen to your podcast. So if I can get the Zoom split screen going, which here we are, you see that?
Yes, sir. Look at
All
this.
right. Without further ado, we're going to start with the Miami Heat and Sacramento Kings. The game tied 107 to 107. 7 seconds left on the clock. Let it roll. Herro ball, top of the 3-point. Pump fake, step back, lets up the 3, and it's in. I think this one is
Kaboom, I believe is the correct phrasing here.
that is exactly the call that was made. Better done than I did there. So in real time, that really looked like nothing. And in slow-mo, I'm still not sure if there's anything here. So I've got this clip slowed to about 1/10 the speed. I've just used QuickTime to slow it down again by 50%. So this might be a bit painfully slow, but we're going to take a look at what happened here. So again, Herro has it, takes it forward, the step back, the pump fake, left foot, right foot. Yeah, I still am not sure if I'd call that a travel.
Yeah, the argument here is that look at the vertical on Terrence Davis. Wow. Yeah, argument there is that he may have lifted his right foot and established that as the foot of pivot, but then proceeds to pivot with the left foot on resetting to take the shot after the pump fake. In the NBA, this is never going to get called a travel.
And even like he's gathered the ball, and I don't think he's moved his feet from this point yet. Yeah.
Yeah, in a
So
close enough, it's
right
close
foot,
enough.
left foot. He does
Yeah.
lift both feet and touch them, but is that like there's no third step there, and he doesn't pivot off.
It's only if he had pivoted with his right foot and then his left, right?
But it really
That's
just looks like 2 steps to me.
yeah, it's more
Yeah.
the change of the pivot foot rather than the 2 steps. But yeah, this will never get called in the situation time scenario. Yeah.
Yeah, and in terms of gaining an advantage from it on the play, I can't really say that there's any advantage,
Yeah.
like if he had just left the foot done. So I'm not too upset about this non-call if it even like,
Official call, non-travel.
yeah. All right. So the Kings, excuse me, get the loss. The Heat get the win off that. And like ultimately what we're going to be coming up against time and time again is the skill of the player uh, being the thing we want to decide the outcome of the game, and what are the limits and guardrails we want to put against that. In this case, I think the skill shines through with nothing really unfair getting in the way. So I'm happy to move on to the next clip. Here we are. Trailblazers, Suns, tied at 106. 1 second left on the clock. The ball gets inbounded. We're still on half playback speed.
Good. Great pass.
Grant catches it. Really falls back, creates a lot of space from the defender, and hits the fader for the 2 for the game winner. I don't think we need to watch it again from this angle. I like this one a lot better. So we'll watch it back once more in real time and then again in slow. Ball goes up, contact, 1, 2, 3, 4. I counted 5 steps with the foot there. Ball goes up. So the question here is, where is the gather? At what point does he have control of the ball? This one especially interesting because it was reviewed that night.
Yeah, honestly, the gather step in the NBA is when they put their second hand on the ball. So they normally get away with quite a bit of distance while they are bringing the ball in their one hand to their second hand. So sometimes you'll see players get 2 steps off in their quote unquote gather, which is illegal by the rules.
The official definition is control to pass or shoot or dribble the ball. That's when like the point of gather is considered over and they have possession.
Yeah. So if you go off of that, then I'd say this isn't really a travel here. And if it is, it's again one that doesn't get called because he's he's moving backwards. It's implied that he's probably gonna get this shot off anyways, and it's too ticky tack of a call that to really change a moment like that. That's not what the NBA wants.
Let's watch it one more time, very, very slowed down. So the ball comes up, point of contact. He has his right foot planted, his left foot falling back as that ball enters his one hand. Left foot comes down, right foot sliding back, right foot down. I think, like in my mind, right around here, he has control of the ball.
Mm-hmm.
So 1, 2, 3, shot.
Yeah, it's definitely questionable. It's definitely questionable. I wouldn't call it.
I do think this one, the late game or the last 2-minute report, if I'm not mistaken, did go back and say this was a travel.
Okay, still don't call it. I don't care.
I don't like this one. I mean, the thing is, if you look at this clip frame, look how far he is from Ayton. Like that extra step doesn't make a difference in making, or like,
I believe he gets the shot off either way.
That has, but like it's so there. The steps are so blatant there. This one I didn't like, and especially the fact that it was reviewed and they decided to let it stand. I was pretty up in arms against this one.
So did they review for the travel or did they review just for the when he got it off? Because I don't think they can review for a travel because it wasn't called.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fair enough then.
Yeah.
I mean, that's absurd, but
yes, that doesn't make sense.
Rules.
But under the review rules, yeah, you can't review a travel if it's not called.
So your call is play on. My call is this is atrocious, and I'm with the Suns fans on this one, which I don't say very often for those who do not listen.
Yep.
All right. So our next one is 2 plays that happened in the same game. This between the Celtics and the Cavaliers. The Cavaliers up by 2, about 7 seconds left on the clock, I believe. We covered this on the pod in real time with more of a just take on the game. The ball inbounded to Smart. Tatum starting from the backcourt takes off at running speed into the front court with Wade guarding him. I still have this on half speed, don't I? Yes, I do. So here we go twice in real time, and then we'll take a look at it again. So Smart gets by Wade, takes it up. Allen comes in. Tatum makes the dunk. I tried to freeze it there. We get like a really nice reaction out of Tatum, and I cut for the sake of brevity. But the real like indignation at no call and still strutting it. So once more in real time at a different angle, goes up, bit of body contact, bit of a touch on the arm. So we'll go. Any thoughts before we go in slow-mo?
So this is exactly one of those plays where as a purist you hate it, but as someone who understands the NBA as a product, this is a foul that gets called if he doesn't make the dunk. And I know that's terrible to say, but it's something that exists in the league where if a player is fouled in an important situation and they don't make the basket, then it is going to be called a foul and allow them the chance to tie the game. Whereas, and this happens even not in tight situations. If someone makes a posterizing dunk, there is a foul usually on a lot of those. Just doesn't get called because it's an exciting play and you make the basket. But if you don't, it's usually a late whistle, which frustrates the opposition. It is a foul. So ruling is it's a foul, but I understand why it's not called.
And just to be clear, are you saying like this is the way it is, or are you saying you agree with the way it is?
Both.
Okay. So before I give my take, I'll just add that there's kind of two elements to the foul, or like the question of foul here. One would be the body contact, and two would be the arm touch. Anytime you blow by your defender and you're dealing with the help defender, the help defender has a really uphill battle in the foul question because they don't have legal guarding position. They don't have the time to establish it 9 times out of 10, especially in a case like this. So any body contact really that disrupts or changes the shot is automatically a foul by that standard. At the same time, players like Tatum coming in with so much momentum and strength, it is going to take quite a lot of force to disrupt them in any way that's not incidental and actually adjusts the trajectory. So maybe going back to what you said of like, if this goes in, it's not a foul. If it doesn't go in, it is a foul. There is something there just in terms of, well, it went in, so like the contact was incidental and didn't really affect it, versus like it didn't go in, there was contact, it probably affected it. Yeah, the point you lose there is like, what if there's contact that didn't affect it and it doesn't go in? Just in at the speed and strength this plays at, it's really hard to make that call. So twice more in slow mo, and this is one of the harder ones for me. At first, I thought this was totally nothing, but yeah, like there's a bit of body contact, and then I think there's an arm touch, but he has so much speed and momentum going in that it does nothing. And a call here would have given the Celtics a go-ahead free throw shot to win the game. I I really never want this called, where the contact is incredibly incidental and doesn't affect it at all. It quite often does, especially if it doesn't go in. So I personally am pretty happy with the non-call. So I think we're together on play on there.
Yep.
All right. 3-4 seconds later in the same game, maybe a bit later, actually. I can't remember how long the Celtics dribbled it. 3 seconds left on the game clock. Donovan Mitchell, who's been fantastic with the hero ball throughout this last 2-minute stretch, by the way, has the ball top of the arc. Let's let the clip play. Shot goes up. Tatum the block. Both players fall to the ground. Buzzer ends. Game is going to overtime. So I think I'll play that once more in real time, then we'll chat, and then once more in slow motion, slightly different angle coming up here. We're a little closer. So shot goes up, and you see why Mitchell fell. Tatum's foot right under it as the block went down. Once more in slow-mo, or are you happy to chat?
I got it. It's partially you could say it's a makeup call, which happens in the NBA for not calling the previous one. It's a foul that gets called in the other 46 minutes of the game because he's in his landing area. Now, there's an argument there that Donovan extends his leg, and that could be an offensive foul in the new rules as well. I think the big piece of this not getting called is the fact that Tatum did block the shot. And a lot of times, again, in these close final second, final minute scenarios, you reward good defense and you don't reward bad shots taken in the last 2 minutes of a close game. Tatum makes the block. I think that makes the rest of the contact mostly incidental. Just as similar to what happens after you steal a ball or after you block it from someone and then two bodies collide. most of the time that's not going to get called because the play has already taken place and the rest of it's unaffected. The landing area thing is important, but in this case, you reward defense late in the game, and you don't want to make a call that decides the outcome in this situation.
So my issue with that is, and I tried to freeze it here in a spot that shows it as much as I can, where Tatum is, the only way he can make this block happen is by attacking the landing space of Mitchell, which, as we know, is a really unsafe injury occurring play. If he tries to block this shot in a way where he stays out of Mitchell's landing space, and when we watch in slow-mo, I'm going to look for that kick out you mentioned. I don't think he gets the block off, and I don't think this is a bad shot by Mitchell. He's created an okay amount of space, and he's been fire in these last 2 minutes. So if he thinks he has the space to get the shot off because Tatum can't leap as far or isn't allowed to leap at his maximum leap in distance, takes it, and it's only Tatum saying, I can do whatever I want as long as I get the block that lets him. So I will watch. Like, do you think if Tatum goes straight up on here, he can affect this shot from this distance? All right. Your thoughts on that before we look for the kick out?
I mean, the counterpiece to that is in this new age, step backs are more extreme than ever. Both of Donovan's feet definitely leave the ground on a step back to create that much space. So I think in this situation, again, 1 second left, that shot has to go up. So Tatum's selling out to play defense on it. And yeah, I just in these tight situations, I think there's going to be more plays like this, and it's different from when it happens the rest of the game.
What's ironic is if Mitchell had traveled, he might have been able to get the shot off with enough space to get away from the block. So he goes pretty straight up. That right foot kicks out a little, but it's that left foot that Tatum's under, and that's where Mitchell falls. So I think this should have been called. I think this sends a message to defenders that, like, prioritizing the block in these situations lets you get away with almost anything, and it's just player safety more than anything else that upsets me about that. Like, just imagine if like Steph Curry goes out of the playoffs on a situation like this.
So where does Tatum land here? Still lands inside the 3-point line. So they're part of that where Donovan's jumping forward.
Man,
I think it's close enough with the time remaining and the fact that he does make a play on the ball. It's different from someone closing out to the corner, jumping 3 feet forward. Like Tatum's the primary defender. He's not closing out from a rotation.
And all right. So O says play on. I say I don't like it. Yeah. All right.
Similar thoughts on this next one.
All right, we'll try. This is already dragging out, so we'll move along to the Kings Warriors. 1.3 left on the clock in the inbound. Kings trail by 3. They need a 3 to get the shot up. This one's tricky, so I have it at like 4 or 5 different angles. So we're gonna watch a few of them, chat about it, and then once more in slow motion. So inbound comes, Heurter with the catch, shot goes up. Some body contact there, and it's an air ball, not even close. So if we back up a little here, the 2 questions are, there was a hand, I really cut these. There was a hand on the back. I think that got cut out.
That's soft. That's not foul.
Yeah, that is. I did try my best to peruse the NBA rules, and even there, like, a hand that's incidental is a non-call, play on. The 2 things are, the main thing is, does Klay catch Herter's elbow? I said we'd let play and then chat about it, so we'll play it a couple more times and see the angles. yeah, that it, it's such an awkward, bad looking shot that doesn't even get close. And for me, it's a question of, is it that shot so awkward and bad because of how aggressively Klay is invading the space of Herter? And is it legal or illegal for him to do so? So that one I think was slowed down naturally. And then, yeah, here's where I've got the last slowed down. So we're on the same page. The hand on the back has affects the play zero, except I guess in that it lets Klay stay really, really close to Herter. And we see him take a really awkward looking shot trying to create some space from Klay. And I think that is part of what makes this shot attempt so bad.
Does he make contact with his elbow on the way up or in the shooting motion?
It's right as the ball gets released, I think. So right there.
Yeah, so I'd say if it's on the way up, that's a little bit more extreme. But it feels like Klay, for the most part, is pretty straight up in his defense. He's not invading Herter's landing space in the same way that even Tatum did. And
Yeah.
and Herter obviously jumps before Thompson does. There's contact here. What I boil it down to is you don't bail out bad shot like this late in the game. Um, where Sacramento's got to run a better play than this, to be honest. And again, not a perspective that a lot of people are gonna like, but I don't think you call this because Sacramento is at this point they're hunting for a foul to bail them out. It's a bad shot, it's a bad play. Klay is really tight and there's obviously contact, but I just don't think it's enough to warrant a foul that completely changes the outcome of this game.
So my issue, I guess first I'll say the last 2 minute report did call this a foul, an incorrect call on the floor. For me, like that contact is part of Klay, I think, being a little too tight. Like I think part of the reason this is such a bad shot is because it's so awkward because Klay is so tight and Herter's trying to make up for the space. So you don't reward bad defense or bad offense, but do you reward like illegal defense? Is
I
what
would
we keep coming up against. And in my mind, this is just on that threshold.
exactly.
And
And this is the call I think the fans base has the most right to be upset about out of all of the ones that we're going to watch here. But I still can appreciate the perspective of not calling it.
mhm, we're I'm like brewing in my head another script for a video of like rule changes I want to see to the NBA, mostly to speed up the game. And in that regards, one of them is I want to see 3 point foul shots, just one shot from the 3 point line, which I feel like would add some fun tension to it. So that would have made a different kind of dramatic late game scenario. But yeah, I'm with the Kings fans on this one. This is just a little too illegal in the defense. And it, again, same as the Tatum thing, it's incentivizing the defense to stifle the offense, which I think guys have just gotten so ridiculously good at the 3 point shot over the last 5 years that, like, that's somewhat changed our perspective on this. Like, it's just an impossible shot for Herter with how aggressive Klay is. This is a weird one. Uh, Nuggets up three, 11.8 on the clock. Jokic catches the ball right near the top of the 3 point line. Has a wide open lane to the basket. Will let it roll, and then once more in slow mo. So takes that drive. I don't know who the defender is, but he gets into Jokic, body
It's Mathurin.
contact, and the shot doesn't go.
Benny boy, number 2 on the rookie of the year ladder.
Yes, we haven't touched on the Pacers yet.
That's okay. We don't
So I think, in my opinion anyway, Nikola Jokic gets the worst whistles, or like has one of the worst whistles for any superstar in the game, just in terms of what defenders are allowed to get away with.
I think that's a center thing.
It is, but like it's almost like the rules are working against him, and that like if it's incidental, if it doesn't affect, and he's just so damn skilled that like the idea of what does and doesn't affect him like more warped than anything. So I think that may be another variable in play here. But as we go, it was a weird one just because it like all he had to do was hold the ball and wait for the foul to come, but he tries to put it away. Wow, we're really running on this bit. Uh, so he has the clear lane, still has the clear lane. There's the body contact, and he is foul hunting here. Like as soon as he feels the contact, that's when his shot goes up.
So the part that's surprising here is in this scenario, refs normally have a quicker whistle because they're expecting an intentional foul. I'd
Mhm.
say if this is any other part of the game, probably get away with a non-foul call. The part that's shocking to me is that they should be calling fouls at this point because they're expecting any contact to be like intentional,
Mhm.
and it's an intentional foul. So in this situation, I'd say they get the call wrong for the situation, but I think any other point in the game, it's not a foul. So it's a weird one.
Yeah, it is a foul in that he doesn't have legal guarding position, and then he creates contact which disrupts the shot. And it's not a foul for me in that the shot goes up because Jokic feels the body contact, and I hate that. Also significant, this non-call would allow the Pacers for a buzzer beater attempt, which they ultimately missed. But this was a non-call with potential game
Yeah.
affecting impact.
Ball don't lie.
So it was a foul. Yeah, this I think was the hardest one for me to decide on, where it does seem like a foul, but I hate that style of play, and I'm kind of happy to see it punished. This segment has gone on way longer than I thought, though I'm not shocked. So we'll move along to the last one here, where the Oklahoma City Thunder lead by 1 in OT after a ridiculous step back by Shea Gilgis Alexander. The Bucks with the ball, inbounding it. Um, Lopez at the top. He's going to get a screen set for him. There's going to be a switch as the ball comes up. Going to get a push from Dort, and Lopez really can't do much with the ball in the air. Thought so?
I'm fine with this one either way they want to call it. Side with the refs here. It's a play where it directly affects the game-winning layup. The shot is missed, which is critical. And you punish Oklahoma City for a late rotation and bad defense there. And Lopez definitely would have gotten a look there if he wasn't pushed off. So I'm fine with it calling a foul, but I could see it being called the other way as well. I think that causes more heads to roll if it's called the other way, because in the end he only makes one and it goes to double OT.
Yeah, just I'd love to see the meta stats on players' free throw percentage in game, like direct game impacting situations. Like Durant missed some the other day against the Mavericks, which broke like a 65 streak. I think about Paul George missing 2 free throws for the first time in a season for a loss. So many examples like that this fits into. I just thought it was interesting to end the clip with something where we did have a call that directed the game. Because for me, the worst case in this is the refs feeling the pressure and start calling ticky tack fouls and creating game ending sequences. Because I do not want to see a situation where ball of the last 5 seconds, just drive it into the key, throw it up, and get calls flop style basketball. I'd rather live in the no call world than a world where that's what happens. And so we'll run it one more time. Like, there's definitely a push, there's definitely contact, there's definitely a strength disadvantage. So what else does Dort do? Um, I do think this was the right calling the foul was the right decision here, though.
Yep,
All
agreed.
right. That was a 30-something minute segment. So I don't know how to. Oh, there we go. Stop the share. Closing notes on. I was hoping this would help me have some meta take, gathering things from our conversation and highlights on every clip bit. To reiterate, it like you want the game ending scenarios to be decided by the skill and athleticism that defines basketball, and you just want the offense and defense to both have a fair chance to do that. And so I think the footwork of Herro really doesn't affect the game. The footwork of Grant on that gather really does. You can lay some slack on Ayton for not following up there as a defender, staying with Grant. The contact by Allen really incidental with the momentum Tatum had, whereas the skill and athleticism on full display by Tatum to get the game overtiming block, but at what cost? Again, Klay does a great job defending Heurter, but is it like by a definition of rules, is that allowed throughout the rest of the game? And then with Jokic, we have some foul hunting. So I guess one of my main takeaway might be that going in, I thought some of these were a lot worse than they were. So you influencing me a little in that, like some amount of play on, but these really sat on the line. And maybe I have some more sympathy for the refs than I thought I would coming into this.
That was going to be my takeaway is NBA refs have an incredibly difficult job. All of these things happen much quicker than we just broke them down at, and they have to make a call exactly in that moment without breaking it down. I think on aggregate, they get calls off right more often than not, and there's always going to be things that they miss and they call differently. But the biggest thing you always want your refs to do is call consistently and don't intervene and be the story of a game. And I think in most, if not all of these instances, they don't end up being the major cause of the final outcome. And that's all you can really ask for when they have to be relied on this to do this night after night until we get robots, right?
I mean, this was a collection of non-calls. So by definition, it's hard to make the refs the story of it. As opposed to those games where teams have like one team has a 20 free throw advantage.